Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing?
It's part 1 today. Is that correct, Lincoln?
Yes.
Thank y'all for listening. Have a great day.
You too.
Welcome to the Dad Show podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome back to the Dad Show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank y'all for being here, for watching, and just being present with us. We got Mr. Nathan Wray in the studio today. Man, he's such an inspiration, and just he's living the Dad Show work every single day at what he's doing, and we're going to get more into that. But yes, you've got a treat for today for sure. So Nathan, I want to thank you for being here and being with us, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I know we've been trying to do it for a while, and finally was like, okay, let's nail it down.
Yep, the stars aligned and the schedules aligned and everything else.
Yep.
So, man, I'm happy you're here, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
If you don't mind, take just a second, open up and let our audience know who you are and who they're listening to.
Yeah, I'm a military brat. Grew up. My dad was in the Air Force for 20 years, and we moved around all the time, and landed in Indiana at some point, and just didn't have life together,
Yeah.
Got in a lot of trouble. Got kicked out of high school 3 weeks before graduation, and
Wow.
And after that, just kind of popped around the country and moved around and tried to figure life out. And I ended up going to Phoenix, Arizona for a few years, and I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where I met my wife, and we were both on board with, we don't go to church, we don't do that. Like Air One would, we'd scan the radio station, Air One would come on, and we'd try to change it as fast as we could,
Because you didn't want to hear any of the words.
We didn't want to hear none of it.
Wow.
We don't want nothing to do with it. And my parents raised me to, go to church and be in the Southern Baptist Church, and I just avoided it as much as I could.
Yeah.
When I became of age to avoid it, 18.
Do you feel like at that younger age, though, you believed?
No.
Not at all. You just went because your parents were making
I
you.
went because they made me.
Okay.
I think there were moments where I questioned, where I was like, maybe this is something. But, when, and we can get in this later, but, when you have some trauma as a kid, you want something to blame other than yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's the route that I took. I blamed God for all of it. And I wasn't going to have, even though I didn't really believe in God at the time, I was still blaming God. And I think that a lot of people do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so we met in Nashville, and we had our son in 2003, and we found out in 2007 that he had autism, and so that became quite the challenge.
Yes.
Trying to navigate all that, and I just actually looked at this research the other day, but 84% of married couples that have one child with autism end in divorce.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're still hoofing it, man.
How many years have you been married?
22.
22 years.
22. It was 22 in October. October 29th.
Overcome the odds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You find you either bond together and work through it, or you can't do it. You know.
I agree.
If you're not on the same page.
We've seen that so much with what we went through with the hospital with our kids, and I even had a firefighter that his son passed away unexpectedly, and he said those exact words. He was like, your tragedy grew you and your wife closer together. Our tragedy separated us.
Yeah.
And that's so true, man.
It's so hard, you know. I mean, whichever direction you go, it's hard. It's difficult, you know. And so we had Jake, and we knew that he needed more services, and we weren't getting them where we were living at the time. And I had randomly applied for this job in Arizona, and I got it. And so we by that time we had 3 kids. And so I got it. We moved to Arizona, and then we had our last daughter in Arizona. And that was 2007. bought a house, had cars, all that, and then the market crashed, right?
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing, right? So market crashes, so do businesses.
Yes.
You know, and so there we were. We didn't have really anything. We didn't have a home. We didn't have cars. Everything was gone.
Wow.
We had nothing.
So from 2003, I'm going to try and
timeline it.
2003, you had your son.
Yep.
2007. So in 4-year span, you had your other kids as well.
4 kids.
4 kids total.
Yeah.
Moved to Arizona.
Yep.
2007 hits and
crash.
bam.
Yeah.
Wow.
It all falls apart, and still not believers. So my wife's dad lived in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, and she said, you know, we can go stay with my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I don't want to, you know.
I completely understand.
Don't know, like, I'm a man, I can handle this.
Yeah.
And we moved in with her dad. And
compromised.
Yeah, compromise. And so we moved with her dad, and that was just hard, you know. It was just tough, and he had another daughter living there, and her kids, and then us and our kids, and so we.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
I ended up getting a job at a retail store, and worked my way up to a manager, and then got transferred to Knoxville.
Okay.
And we got transferred to Knoxville, and this is the weirdest story. Still not believers at the time. This is 2009. We come to Knoxville. I come before the family, so I show up to work, and I have a hotel room, and my wife tells me one day, she goes, "Hey, I'm going to drive down and look for apartments and look for, you know, somewhere to rent."
Yeah.
And I said, okay. She gets a flat tire at the Harriman exit. You know, just one more exit down the road from us. And she pulls off, she goes to the McDonald's, and there's this guy there, and he's like, he sees all the kids, you know, and I think that's what I love about this county.
Yeah.
Is this guy comes over and he's like, "Hey, I see the kids. Can I fix your tire and get you something to eat?" And my wife is,
wow,
you know, we were very prideful at the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And the guy's like, "Look, I don't have anything to do. I'm going to at least fix your tire."
Yes.
So he fixes the tire. While he's fixing the tire, his wife kind of distracts my wife and kind of moves them inside to McDonald's, and they buy the kids food, you know, and so she comes back out, tire's fixed, and the guy goes, are you traveling? I saw your license plate. Are you traveling? And she goes, "Well, my husband works in Knoxville, and we're close to Nashville now, and we're trying to find a place down in Knoxville." And he goes, "Well, how far left do you have to go to get to his work?" And she's like, "Oh, about another 30 minutes or so." And he said, "Would you live here in this town?" And she goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, can me and my wife go show you an apartment? It's ours.
Wow.
Like, we own it, and we'd like to show it to you, and it's big enough for your whole family." And I mean, that should have been the first sign that God was moving and working.
Yeah. But not being a non-believer, you wouldn't recognize that.
Right. No. There was just no, to me at the time, it was coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that anymore, but,
No.
but at the time it was like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So we got that apartment. We lived in it for a year, and we decided, you know, hey, we're doing okay. We need to try to get like a house with a yard for the kids and stuff. And we got a house and rented a house, and I got our store closed, the one that I managed.
Wow.
And so I had to go find a new job. And so I found a new job, thankfully. It took a little while, and we were just so far behind. We really couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
So we got evicted from that house, and we moved into another rental that was about 700 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a front door, no back door.
Wow.
And
4 kids.
4 kids.
Any dogs or cats?
We had 1 dog.
1 dog.
We had 1 dog.
How old were your kids at this time?
Let's see. By this time it's 2013. So, my son would have been in middle school, and my daughters would have been in elementary school. So, third grade. My two oldest daughters, third grade, and my youngest probably kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So we're still struggling, and we can't pay our electric bill. And so we're trying to figure that out, trying to figure all kinds of stuff out. And we had a lady stop by our house, and she said, "Hey, I'm from the church, and this is what church I go to, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about the Lord." And I was like, "Get out."
Yeah.
Like, get out.
Look at what situation I'm in.
Yeah.
If I had a God that loved me, I would not be where I'm at.
Exactly. I didn't want to hear anything about it.
Yeah.
And I was pretty rude to her. I mean, to be honest with you, I was pretty rude to her. And she said, "Can I ask you, like, what your biggest issue is? Like, if you could overcome that one thing, what would it be?" And I just spouted off like, "Well, it'd be nice to have electricity." That's all that I said.
Yeah.
And she came back to the house later on. She went down to the Harriman Utility Board with our address and said, "I just want to pay the bill on this address."
Wow.
And they were like, "We can't tell you how much it is." And so she just guessed. We had a credit for like 3 months on our electric bill because she just guessed.
Wow.
I mean, and there was
chills,
credit there.
man.
I know. And so she came back and like, she's like, "Here's your receipt. Your electricity is paid. Please let me or my church know if you need anything else." And I was still just like, "Get out of here later. That's not going to convince me."
Yeah, exactly. Just because you shoved some money in my face and you got me.
Yep.
You got me what I asked for. I'm still not gonna.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look back on that and I think about how many people struggle to get their electric bill paid, and there I was, and like I didn't even appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted her to go.
Exactly.
I think at the time, I realize now, but at the time, I wanted her to go because I didn't want to face the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I did not want to be like, "Okay, God, you did that."
Yeah. You won.
Wasn't her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still wrestling, right?
And, man, that's so powerful because how many people are going through tough things today, or, whatever the case may be, that are like, "God, I don't need you. I can do this on my own." But yet they still struggle. It's still, and they may, all things aside, they may get through it.
Right.
Barely, for the most part.
But do you actually get through it?
Me personally, I don't believe so.
I don't think so either.
Now you may make it to what you think is the other side, but you don't win the victory. You don't win the full battle, the full war.
Nope.
And that's so powerful, man, to think about what you just said.
Yeah. I read a quote, and I put it in my presentation now, but I read it a couple of months ago, and it was, "You don't heal in isolation, you heal in community."
Amen. Yeah.
And that's what that lady was trying to do for us. She was trying to bring community to us, and we were refusing community. I mean, we sheltered because we didn't really know anybody here, and we were so worried that, our kids were so young, no electricity, we barely have any food.
Yeah.
Are they going to take our kids away?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that doesn't happen. Like, if you're just struggling, they're not going to come be like, "Oh, you're struggling, we're taking your kids away." There's resources out there that will help, Wow. So anyway, so we decide one day, we're like, actually my wife woke up on a Sunday and she started getting ready at like 8 a.m. And I'm like, "Yo, it's Sunday. What are you doing?"
Lay back down.
Go back to bed.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm going to go to that church. And I was like, "Well, have fun."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, can you help me get the kids ready?" And I got defensive. My kids aren't going to church.
Yeah.
No way. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
And she said, "No, they're going to go to church, and because I'm their mom and I can make that call. Like, you don't own any of us, right? Like, it's not your call. I'm going to make the call." And I went and I put myself in our bedroom and I just sat in there until they got home. I didn't, and man, they came home and like, I never heard the kids so happy, Wow. Song's gonna make me cry. And I thought, what in the world?
Yeah.
what did they do there? So the next Sunday, she's getting ready at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going to go. I guess I'll go check it out. So we started going to church, and we still weren't saved. We didn't know the Lord. And they had their Christmas hanging of the greens or whatever that is, and we went to that. And then the next Sunday, the pastor did an altar call, and I sat down, and I was like, all right, God, like you want to fight, like you want to do this, you're going to prove to me that you're real, and you're going to do it right now. When I open my eyes, someone will be up there proclaiming you as their Lord and Savior. And if that's not being done,
I'm out.
I'm done with this. I'm not coming back. And I opened my eyes.
Wow.
And my wife was up there.
Wow. Not just somebody.
Your
rock.
Yeah. So then I had to explain to the pastor, like, I'm not doing this because she's doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that cliche
God,
deal. Yeah.
Like I just asked God to prove this to me, and he proved it to me.
Wow.
And that's when life really began to change. A little bit after that, that house we were living in, it caught on fire, and we were just kind of in a spot where, like, where do we go now?
Yeah.
And another church had a house that was open, and they didn't even say, like, you have to come to church here, but, you know, here's a church. And we made the decision, you know, like, I mean, we got to get back in some way, you know? So we moved into that house, and life just, I mean, it began changing incredibly. And at the time we were kind of helping the youth. We weren't really doing anything major, just, you know, showing up to show up. And man, it's so weird to look back on it and see how God changed all of it, from we won't even touch Air One to that's all that we're listening to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Now you're making your kids listen to it.
Right.
No, this is the only radio station that you.
Yeah. We're buying, like, instead of what are those CDs they sell on the radio all the time? Top Hits or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Kids Bop. Instead of Kids Bop, we're buying Christian Bop.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. 101 of God's greatest hits. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful, man.
And so when we got to the new house, I had this major back injury, and I couldn't work anymore. And I really felt like I just was not a good dad or a husband. We didn't have insurance, and so we didn't know what to do. You know, like I had a walker that I had to walk around the house in. If we went to the store, I'd have to go in a wheelchair, and I was in pain constantly.
Yeah.
And my kids would love to take that wheelchair and, like, run it into a pole and just see me, you know, roll around in pain for a minute. They loved it, you know? And I'm like, all right, if that provides entertainment to you, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. But I'm sitting at home one day, really, you know, I literally can't go anywhere without my wife getting me out to the car and taking me somewhere. And man, you want to feel like you're letting your family down.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. Like, I was at a point where, you know, I just wanted to say to her, like, it's okay if you can't do this anymore.
Wow.
Like, that's okay. And so she's working, I'm not working, you know, the kids are going to school, and I had a telemarketer call me one day, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you about insurance. And literally I was answering the phone just to have communication with people.
Wow.
You know? And I said, dude, we can't buy insurance. We can't afford it. And he goes, tell me what's going on. And I told him everything. Like, the poor guy, he's probably like on this minute thing. Like, you got to sell this stuff within minutes or get off the phone, you know?
Didn't meet his quota that day.
But he said, like, I told him everything, and he said, hey, I'm going to this sounds weird, but can I call you back when I get off of work? And I was like, yeah, I don't care, man. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, sure, you're going to call me back. Yeah, right. Well, he called me back at like 8:00 that night. And the first thing he said to me was, hey, can I pray for you really quick? And I was like, yeah, I would love that. He prayed for me and he said, I'm going to tell you how to get insurance. You're not going to have to pay for it. So he gives me this whole system on how to get 10 care. We didn't know anything about 10 care.
Yeah.
So I go through it, figure it out, and within 6 weeks I'm having surgery. Had my surgery and looking for a job. Can't find anything. So I called a friend one day. I applied at a Ford dealership. Is when I was running around like a crazy kid. I would sell cars.
Yeah.
And so I applied at a Ford dealership and I called a friend at church and I said, can I use you as a reference? Didn't call me back. And I thought, well, I guess we're not friends, are we?
Yeah.
You know, like a week went by.
Wow.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. And the week went by and she called me and I didn't want to answer. You know, I wanted to be like, forget you. You can't call me now.
I'll be the bigger.
Yeah. And I answered and immediately she was like, Nathan, we've been on vacation. I shut my phone off on vacation. I don't respond to messages. That's my time.
Wow.
Sorry I missed this call. Did you get the job? And I said, no, I didn't get the job. You know, like I was looking for references. I didn't really have anybody. And she said, well, there's another job that I think you'd be really great at. I've seen you work with the youth. It's kind of working with youth in the county, and I'm going to make some calls. And that was 7 years ago. And I started my job as a prevention coordinator for the Roane County Anti-Drug Coalition.
Wow.
And that went a whole 7 years working with students in Roane County. And that job just ended. And now I'm off doing my own thing now, working with students all over the country. But that's the short version. And I know that was long, but that's the short version of kind of how we got here,
where you are today.
Yeah.
Man, it's so powerful to look back and see God connecting all those dots.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think about the whole thing of, you know, you just like you think it's coincidence, but now that you look back and see how, and I put that into our story of, you know, you're asking God to move here, you're asking God to move there, and you don't see it. But whenever you get to this side of it and you say, okay, God, thank you for not moving at that point. Thank you for doing this instead of what I asked. And, and my pastor said something the other day, said, you don't think God answers your prayers, but he does in 3 ways, either yes, no, or not right now.
Yep.
And, you know, but you think just because it didn't happen, you think that he didn't answer your prayer.
Yeah.
But his plan, his story, his ultimate goal for you is far better than we can even imagine.
Right.
And, you know, like just what you said, like you were going to be the bigger person and sit down in that pew and tell God, if you want me to move, you're going to put somebody up there to show me that you're real.
Yeah.
Praising you.
Yep.
And God's like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And put your wife up there, one that you would never thought that you would open your eyes and see it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, that's so powerful to see all those dots connected. And like you said, for the non-believer thinking that it's a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
It's not.
You know what's weird is, and I've thought about this too, is I have to wonder sometimes, God's intention was for her to go to that altar anyways, whether or not I said, prove it to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes I think like the audacity that I had to sit in a pew and go, you prove it to me.
Yeah.
I have life, right? You've given me children. Somehow we have a house. Somehow I have a job. I have a high school education. I don't have any degrees or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you're still providing for me. And even if we had nothing, you're providing for me. Like, how dare I sit in that chair? But on the flip side of that, I mean, when I look back at the fire, it's weird to thank God for the fire.
Yeah.
Because without that fire, we wouldn't have moved to the new house. We wouldn't have met the friend who helped me get on this road
exactly
to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the things that I missed is our middle daughter, Ariana, diagnosed with autism. Our youngest daughter, Summer, she almost passed away in 2018. We didn't know she was type 1 diabetic.
Wow.
Like, we almost lost her.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible because, you know, in 2018, we get rushed down to Children's Hospital. She's in an ambulance. We're driving behind. We get into the hospital and they're doing all their stuff, and we get up to ICU, and the doctor comes in and they're like, "Hey,
Thank you for watching part 1 and come back tomorrow for part 2. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.